my jurisdiction. Examine the plan, look at the proposed cuts, approve, disapprove, and let's move forward. That's what I'm doing, and that's why I'm hearing from retirees.
I'm his wife, and the question we have is that it appeared from what we had heard before that the union was trying to protect the current, their current participants that haven't retired yet more than those that have.
State's plan. You're making an equity point. We've heard this frequently, that some people are getting hurt more than others in terms of how the cuts will be proposed.
Once again, our conference calls and the town hall meetings, are those comments archived available to us? And if not, does that mean that they are not being logged for future consideration? And also, could you comment on the efficacy of the UPS comments that were submitted? And
permanent those calls. What are made permanent are any of the submitted comments that are posted on our website, so people can get a pretty good cross-section of the type of criticism that we're hearing. UPS, wow, did they make a submission? They made a submission that is in the hundreds of pages, challenging the decisions made by central states as they impact UPS retirees. You can read the UPS submission. It's available online. It's public. But you are correct that UPS was very critical and has threatened to go to court if the central state's plan is permitted to go forward as is. So UPS has been sharply critical.
I'm sorry, this is Jay Perry from Kansas City, Missouri. What I see is the Teamsters retirees are not of the Internet society. We didn't come up under the Internet. We're not being allowed the database to physically write or get a hold of the retirees just out of our local. And our local told me point blank that the International wanted to suppress the local from giving out any information on the retirees. The voting on this is totally lopsided, it's totally one-sided, and no means no, a yes should mean yes. And the way it's set up now, it's socioeconomically engineered to fail, because we are not of the Internet generation pushing for this. Then in June, CNN put out an entire media article that said Congress lobbied heavily by the Teamsters. And those are my two questions, sir. The voting is not fair, and I believe that there's a lot of conspiracy and collusion behind this one-sided, lopsided vote, sir. If you care to comment, sir, thank you.
Two good questions. First, on the voting, my goodness, we've heard a great deal of criticism about the voting, particularly your point that an absentee ballot is counted as a yes, and that electronic voting should be supplemented by a requirement of an old-fashioned paper ballot, like you're familiar with, or like the point you make. Well, we understand that. Now, we've got to look at the law, which is pretty clear that an absentee vote is a yes vote. And Senator Portman of Ohio has introduced legislation to change that law so that it reflects more your thinking. We shall see.
Yeah, I'm from Springfield, Ohio, and I'm 63 years old, and I started working as a Teamster in 78, and due to, break in service and stuff, I didn't have quite my 30 years in. I was 6 months shy, and I'd had a motorcycle accident where I'd had Teamster. They were not the greatest jobs, and I just kept thinking, well, I want to stay a Teamster for my pension, and I had better jobs, and I'd always go back, or go to a Teamster job that opened up, and it just doesn't seem fair to take that away now. I had a couple concerns. One of them in the letter I got was talking about orphan companies. I happened to work for one of those orphan companies, and I quit about 2 years before they closed up. And then when I retired, they go back to all your records, and I had about 14 weeks in the year that I retired that I received no credit at all for, so that money is gone. And the company that I worked for always paid the full amount, and they're still paying it. And I understand that after Yellow bought Roadway out, and they quit paying, I think about 2009, and they still are not up to full pay on the retirees, and I think that would hurt the pension plan more than some of the orphans. It's a real lengthy article, but in the 80s, the Teamsters had to reinvest their money, and somehow it was invested by Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and J.P. Morgan. Now, they're some of the same companies that receive bailout money from the federal government, and some of their employees even received bonuses after this was taken care of. Thoughts are on this?
Well, the orphans, I must tell you, the treatment in of orphans in the Central States Plan, the law that was enacted does require that orphans be considered as a separate category. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's just. The law speaks to this.
And secondly, I was always raised with the working attitude that the Teamsters were a brotherhood, that it was one for all and all for one, and if indeed there's cuts to be taken, well, why do we not feel all the pain equally? Why do some get no cuts while others are getting better than 50% cuts? Thank you.
Excellent questions. First, again, on accountability. On the one hand, the Central States Pension Plan is accountable to you, the retirees. They're the one, the retirees are supposed to benefit from Central States administration of the plan. I suppose the retirees have certain rights that they could advance in a private lawsuit. The retirees can also request the Justice Department to look into allegations of mismanagement. I don't know. But clearly, Central States is accountable and has an obligation to do what it can do to protect the long-term interest of retirees. Now, that's the way it's supposed to be. Secondly, your question about equity and one for all, I mean, this is a constant source of criticism from retirees that the proposed cuts are not equitable. They are too large. They hurt some retirees more than others, and that it isn't fair. Finally, let me say this, because you raise a fundamental point. Central States claims under this plan that it's proposing, there is a slightly better than 50% chance the plan will survive without bankruptcy, without the necessity of future cuts. That's what they say. We're looking at this, Treasury. We're trying to decide whether or not it really will survive without further cuts. The Teamsters Union, in its submission, says no, it won't. That the assumptions made by the plan are wildly optimistic.